Hey, g'day, it's Prezzo. Thanks for stopping by. Now this is episode 6 of building a float lock vise for your drill press. And in the previous 5 episodes I got the vise to this point here. Now this is a functioning clamping vise system, but what I need to do is to make some fittings that hold this bar down to the edge of the drill press table. Now in the original float lock vise system there was a thing like a G-clamp that clamped to the face of the table and the underneath side there. I didn't like that idea. I want this to be able to be removed and have nothing projecting over the surface of the drill press table, and for that reason I'm going to use this little casting here, and this will be machined to fit to the edge of the circular table on my drill. Now if you've got a square table it would be really simple for you, and I'm using a casting simply because I made castings for this part of the vise build and it's just convenient to make this casting at the same time. Now, having said that, a lot of people have asked if I would make them castings for this build. Simple answer is that because of the very low volume that I would need to make it, it doesn't work for me. However, you could make these two parts, which I've made from casting, from solid billet stock. Now, I've got some 40mm square aluminium bar stock here, and this would be perfect for making these jaws. When I release the drawings, and I have got drawings, I'll make them freely available, and I'll design an alternate to this cast jaw just made from either solid steel or solid aluminium stock. And in some ways making them from solid would be probably quicker than making them from castings. This is less cleanup that you would need to do. Now I'll get on to the build in a moment, but I need to tell you that I've been away for a month, and my wife and I went to Europe. We went to Germany, Belgium, into France and back to Germany, and flew home from there. And two of the standouts for me were Antwerp. I'm wearing the t-shirt today, and we went to another place in Belgium called Dinant. Absolutely beautiful place. I'll show you a little bit of what we saw there. And the thing is that when we live in Australia, we're not called the wide brown land for nothing. We don't tend to see a lot of high mountains or sort of forests and sort of cities, the very old cities that you find in Europe. So for me, seeing that was a real treat. Now, while we were in Belgium, I caught up with my friend Michel. You know him as Drussenox. I called in, we hung out, we drank beer and ate cheese, and I took in some Vegemite. Now, Vegemite, if you've never tried it before, is a classic Australian food. Just about every child in Australia was brought up on the stuff. And for people in foreign countries, they find the taste unique. Is probably the best way of putting it. But I'll show you a clip now. This is Michel trying Vegemite. I'm here with Michel, and this is the Vegemite challenge. So I did tell you that if I visit you or if I send you something in the mail, I'm going to send you some Vegemite. So this is, you never tried this before, have you, Michel?
No, never.
Okay, you're a brave man.
I think he's going to try to kill me.
So a little tiny bit, don't overdo it. Yep, go for it.
I think he wants my deckle, that's why he's gonna kill me.
So tell me that's not the best thing you've ever tasted.
Still alive.
It's all right? Good man.
Cheese from the Netherlands.
It is nice with cheese.
Oh, it's okay.
I bet when I leave you're going to say something nasty about it.
No, I'm gonna put some more. Just wait.
All right.
A little bit more.
Just show me how much you put on the bread. Look at that. Oh, yeah, that's good. That's almost as much as an Australian would have.
And you see, I'm really eating it.
You are, yes. I can verify that. But you're having cheese with it. Actually, you can, in Australia, we have a Vegemite scroll, which is like pastry and cheese and Vegemite. Yeah, that's the real deal. So if you want me to send you a sticker, I did say this, I'm going to send you the Vegemite. And like Michel, you have to try it on camera.
And if you like it, he's gonna send you a whole box.
That's it. biggest jar I can find. So on the basis of Michelle having a go at Vegemite, I've made him an honorary Australian, or an honorary Aussie, if you like. So let's have a close look at the parts we're going to do today on the vise, and we'll get stuck in. So this casting here needs to be cleaned up before we go any further. So I'm just going to clean the surface to get rid of the what's left of the gate from the casting process. And this is where the feeder or the riser was during the casting as well. So we'll get that cleaned up. Now to get the curve to match the edge of the table, we'll do that on the CNC milling machine. It's just a simple way for me to do it. But you know, in reality, you could just about file it and it would do the job. It's going to clean up these two surfaces first. This one's probably not necessary. The CNC operation will take care of that. But I'll just clean it up, give me an extra reference edge. And I don't know if you caught Stefan Gottswinter's latest video where he used a piece of copper wire to grip parts that weren't accurately squared. And absolutely brilliant tip. And I'm using aluminium wire. But yeah, copper wire would work just as well. And that just sits over the moving jaw of the vise. And we'll use a parallel back here and just lower that down. And the aluminium being soft just takes up any discrepancy in the accuracy of that part. And just sort of aligning that by feel. Alright, clamp that really tight. It's not going to go anywhere. We'll get that cleaned up. That gives me a flat surface to put against the fixed jaw of the vise to do the other one. That's good enough for a reference surface. We'll flip this over now, get this face cleaned up. Here's the setup for doing the other surface here. This time I've got the aluminium wire sort of running horizontally and it's pressing on the curved surface at the back of the casting there, sitting on parallels. And I'll just tap that down with a copper drift. Go ahead and get that cleaned up. I'll just get a dimension on that now. It's got to finish at 25mm plus or minus 0.1. At the moment I'm thinking I'll leave the underside as cast, but we'll see. Maybe we can clean it up, make it look a bit neater. That's really not that important. Well, that's sort of cleaned up now, very close to its finished size. I'm going to leave that surface as it is, and now we have two reference faces we can use to set up in the CNC mill. So this is the setup that I'm using on the little CNC mill. And I have to be able to machine this concave here from that previously machined face. And I'm also going to clean up both ends of the casting to bring it back to its correct dimension of 60. The origin is the center of the M10 threaded hole, and I've got the wiggler set up over that point now. I zeroed out X and Y in that position. So we'll go ahead and put the end mill in there now. We'll run all of that machining tool path. But I want to show you this. This is a sort of combination tool that I made some time ago now, and it has a copper hammer face on this end here and a socket that fits on the drawbar of this machine, because this machine has a Morse taper 3 spindle, which is a bit of a pain really when you're having to swap out tooling all the time. So with this I can loosen the draw bolt, just flip it over, give it a smack with this copper face here, and you know, it's fairly quick to change tooling. And just recently a viewer sent me some photographs of the tool that he made along the same lines as this one here. Now his name is David Span, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, but I'll show you the photos, and I think he's done an excellent job, and you know, he's totally happy with the tool, as am I. I love this. It's quick and easy to use. But yeah, there's David's replica of what I made. Okay, let's go ahead and get this set up and do the machining. Okay, well I'm set up over the centre of the casting here now on the vise, and I can offset both sides. I'm going to drill and counterbore for an M6 cap head screw. That's done now. I do need to drill and tap for M10 here, but there's a bit of a trick to this, and I'll take it over to Bench and explain what I mean. Well, there's the casting now. It's been drilled and counterbored, and that will bolt to the edge of the drill press table later. Now, I'm not really happy about having this cast surface on top. I've decided I'm going to flip that over, and I'll have the fully machined face on top. Now, I did mention that there was a trick to drilling this hole here, and a viewer alerted me to this, and they stated that the original float lock vise had a slight offset, a slight lean on the axis of that drilled hole there. And the idea was that as you tighten the clamp down, it forces the bar and therefore the clamp itself flat against the top surface of the drill press table. So that slight misalignment of the hole ensured that we get some downward force against the surface of the table itself. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to reposition this center drilled hole here on the other side, and I'll set it up in the vise with about a 1 degree offset. So let me show you. I hope this shows up. So instead of that drilled hole being dead vertical and dead perpendicular to that top surface, it's going to lean inwards just very slightly, and that's going to give us the clamping pressure against the top surface of the table. But I'm going to leave that for now. I'm going to go ahead now and make the steel parts that grip against the end of the bar here, and we'll get them done, then we can sort of fiddle around with the rest of it. I've got a mark on this boring head from when I bored the holes in the jaws, and they were a good smooth running fit on the bar of the clamp. So I'm going to come back to that mark there, but I'm just going to double check with the micrometer now to be sure, because this has got to clamp and grip very tightly on that bar. There will be a pocket on one side here to give it some release, so it will pinch together. But just the same, we want this bore to be a pretty good fit. Just done the final cut with the boring head there now. I'll just check this. And the steel bar in the clamp is 19.98. And that's come out at 19.97. So that's good. Later on I'll clean up that bore with a bit of emery, and that should bring it spot on to size. Now what I need to do now is clean off that top surface there and bring the two parts of the clamp to the correct thickness. When I do that, I'll machine off the weld, and the two parts will then separate, and all that will be holding them together is the pressure of the vise. Now, should be okay, don't need to take a lot of stock off there, but that brings the overall size of the stock apart from the width this way. Everything else should be two-dimension, and then we can clean up the centre face there. Don't know if you can hear it, those sulphur-crested cockatoos have been going off all day, and that screeching gets a bit annoying after a while, so I don't know what's upsetting them. So this should be in two halves now, so we'll pull it out and see how it clamps onto that bar. So I'll deburr that and we'll check it. Well, there's our two half blocks there, and you can see they are separate pieces, and when these go together they should slide onto the bar, and it's sort of a neat sliding fit there. But what we need to do next is to mill away part of this surface here, leaving a narrow land at one end. And that way, when the screw goes into the threaded hole in this part here, it will clamp the two halves together and it will lock down onto the bar. So it shouldn't be able to rotate in that direction, and it shouldn't be able to slide. So I'll go ahead and do that. We'll make those features, and then we're getting close. We'll try it out. So this is the bottom part of the clamping assembly. And I've got this sitting in the vise in a couple of sacrificial parallels, and I've got it sitting against a vise stop. And this big 20mm carbide insert end mill is set up right on the edge of the part there now, and I'll come in 2.5mm to the right and 1mm depth of cut, and we'll take away all that material, and that will allow the two halves of the clamp to pinch down onto the bar. Now while I've got it here, I'm going to drill and tap for M10. And then when I do the top section of the clamp, I'll put it in the vise inverted against the vise stop, and that way, even if I haven't set up my half on the Y correctly, it won't matter, the two holes will still line up. So we'll get that done. Okay, take these parts out now. I'll get them all deburred and we'll just try it out with an M10 bolt, just make sure it works. Okay, I've got this clamping assembly on here now, and I've just realised that I don't need a thread in this bottom section of the block at all. The thread should be in this aluminium casting. So old dumbass here went all the trouble to put that thread in, and I don't need it. But this at least demonstrates how the clamp is going to work. So for the moment I've got a bolt and a nut here. When I tighten that nut and therefore pinch the two halves of the clamp together, that locks up absolutely solid. So I'm happy that that's working, but I do need to drill out that thread like I said. And I also need to transfer these two hole positions through to the edge of the drill press table. Now I thought about this for a long time, and I realised that what I really need is a drill jig. And I'll make that, and we'll just simply drill through the drill jig into the edge of the drill press table, and that saves a lot of complicated setup. So I'm going to make that little drill jig off camera, and I'll make the screw thread through here off camera, and then hopefully we can demonstrate how this is all going to work. So that's roughly how it's going to go. So the last step for this casting is to drill and tap an M10 hole in the centre of this circular boss here. Now off camera I made up the clamping screw. It's got its own little washer there and a toggle handle, and this will get threaded into that M10 hole, and that will hold everything down in place on the edge of the drill press table. And what I've decided is that I don't want to drill that hole perpendicular. I want it to lean toward the surface of the drill press table by about, well, I said 1 degree, but I think I'm going to make it about 0.6 of a degree. And the reason for that is that when we clamp everything down and we've got the bar sitting on top of that casting there, we don't want any opportunity for that bar to lift off the surface of the table. If anything, we want it to press down onto the surface of the table and keep everything snug and tight. So I'm using the old vise in a vise trick here. So this smaller grinding vise here is going to get tapped in until we get around about 0.6 of a degree, with this end here being the lowest and this fixture here being the highest. So we'll take the casting out, we'll set that up, and we'll go ahead and drill and tap. So I've got my digital bevel gauge or angle gauge here, and I've zeroed this out on the main vise here, and we can put this on top of the grinding vise now, and we're going to tap this in until it reads 0 and then keep going until we've got 0.6. So I think this end here is high, so that's 0. Okay, that's 0.6 there. So I'll tighten up the vise and then we'll get the job set up. So the important thing here is that when we position the centre of the drill hole, that visually it's in the middle of this circular arc here. What I have here is some laser cut acrylic discs. Now I use these on my Tornado radius turning attachment, and these were setting the position of the tool. But that arc there, or that radius, is 15 millimeters radius or 30 diameter. So we can place that disc over that, and I'm going to get a drill bit which is 3 millimeter diameter, and we'll position it in that drilled hole there, and then we can just sort of move the job around until we have the disc lined up with that arc. So we're just going to lower that into that acrylic disc there, and then we just manoeuvre the table and we just set that up by feel. That looks pretty good. Okay, so that's my center position there. We'll go ahead and drill and tap. Okay, so this is how the clamp will work. So that's a little bit firm, but we can fix that. So what we need to do now is get this whole assembly attached to the drill press table, and I've made up a special drill jig for that. So let's go and have a look. So the last step in the build is to attach this aluminium bracket to the edge of the drill press table, and it's absolutely essential that the top surfaces of the table and the bracket are aligned. So I could clamp that to the edge of the table and then use a transfer punch. I have got one, but the potential for a drill bit to walk along this curved surface is fairly high, and it could walk up or down or left or right, and I would prefer to have a really rigid drill guide to allow me to drill right through the table, and then I'll tap it. So for that reason I've made up this little, well, it's a jig but it's also going to double as a shallow V-block for my milling machine later on. So if you think I've gone to a lot of trouble there, that's okay, I can reuse this part. So I'm going to clamp this to the edge of the table. I'll align the top surfaces with a 1, 2, 3 block, and then I can put my drill bit through the drilled holes in the edge of that bracket there and drill right through. So let me get this set up and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, I've got that all clamped in place now, and I've checked to make sure that the top surface of the drill jig and the top surface of the table are coplanar. Pretty happy that that's right, and it's clamped up nice and tight. So what we'll do now is we'll drill through. Now I'm using a 5.3mm drill bit because it's a really tight fit in those holes. Once I've got started, I'm going to change over to a 5, which is the tapping size for M6. Alright, so we're going to follow up with the 5mm drill bit. Okay, I think we've drilled all the way through there now. Alrighty, so let's see if we even got close. Alright, well this is the moment of truth, and as we tighten the screw down here, it should clamp the bar. So that locks that bar quite firmly in place, but I just noticed that that was lifting, and that's not what you want. It should sit down quite snugly on the surface of the table. So let me bring this closer. It's still lifting there, so it's not the end of the world. What I may need to do is just take a little bit of material off the bottom side of this clamp here, just to bring it closer to the surface of the table. I think that's the easiest fix. So let me do that, and then we'll put this back on the drill press. We'll try the clamp out, see what it can do. Oh geez, you screwed up again. Well, I've got the float lock vise set up on the drill press now, and I was able to get rid of that lift that we saw just before on these jaws here. So I ended up machining a bit off the bottom of this clamping block here. I think it was about 0.3 of a millimeter, but that's allowed that to sit down quite firmly on the table now, which is how it should have been before. So don't know what went wrong, but it's all good now. Fairly easy fix. And to demonstrate how this works, we can put a piece of flat aluminium stock in the rebates in the top of these steel jaws here, and you can then just clamp that in position. I'm still getting used to this handle. It's a bit awkward. Now that's clamped down now in the rebate there, and then loosen the clamp and just position the mark directly underneath the drill bit, and then lock it up. Now the advantage of this is that you don't need to worry about holding down a vise. So if this was one of these little drill press vices like this one here, you would need to grip it quite firmly to make sure that it didn't spin or lift up the drill bit. So we can go ahead and drill a hole. I won't drill all the way through because I'll probably hit the edge of the jaw there. but that's one configuration. We can also grip circular work or cylindrical work. So we can quickly move the jaw, position our round stock in the V-groove in the jaw there, and then just ratchet that up into position. Come on, there it goes. Alright, locks there, and then tighten the vise. Yeah, yeah, this is going to take some getting used to. But we got that locked up there now. Once again, position the work underneath the drill bit and lock the vise down. So there are multiple configurations for this as well. So if you want to drill a cross hole through that same cylindrical stock there, just loosen the clamp and then you can tilt the whole vise and once again position your piece of stock underneath the drill bit where you want it, and you go ahead and drill that cross hole there. So there are lots and lots of ways you can set this up. You can rotate the whole drill press table. So if you don't want that position, you can rotate it like that. And there are probably some things that I need to rethink on this design. So let me turn this around, I'll just show you what I mean. So this handle here appears to be a little bit awkward. It's sort of very close to this block here. I'm going to have to take the sharp corners off this part here. When you're trying to tighten that, it's easy to catch your fingers on these sharp corners and edges and so on. I've got a feeling this needs to be taller. So this Tommy bar should be up about here somewhere. So I may redesign that part there, but for now it's just a matter of me getting used to it and using it, and you know, just seeing what needs to be fixed and what needs to be improved. Now in the final episode on this build here, I'll do all of the metal surface preparation on this, and then I'll do all of the metal finishing. So we're going to powder coat these jaws here, we'll do some parkerizing on the steel parts, and we'll do some anodizing on this little part here. Now you've seen all of that before. If you've watched any of my videos, I've shown you that, so I'm just going to sort of gloss over it and just show you what the finished tool looks like, and if I've made any changes I'll let you know what they are. So for now I'm going to say cheerio, and I'm going to leave you with a little bit of footage from our holiday, some of the places we saw in Germany and Belgium and France. So if you don't want to see the travelogue, tune out now, that's totally fine with me, but it's just a little bit of happy footage from our holiday. And if you're thinking about going to Europe, these are some places you can check out. Okay, Prezo, thanks for watching. See you next time.